Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spurs Up Show, best Gamecocks podcast on the internet. Today is Monday, June the 28th, 2021. Today's show, we continue along with the 2021 opponent preview series, guys. Today, we are breaking down the Auburn Tigers as they make their return trip to Williams-Brice Stadium November the 20th. Guys, I'll break down Auburn in their entirety. First things first, we'll talk about their brand new head football coach, how they fared a season ago, best returning players on offense and defense, as well as give the overall outlook for Auburn football in 2021, as well as the matchup against the Gamecocks as South Carolina looks to make it 2 straight wins against the Auburn Tigers. Also, guys, Shane Beamer is going crazy on the recruiting trail with 8 welcome home tweets. Guys, I'll talk about the commitments in the recruiting momentum. We're talking Karon Prutny, Kyla Horton, Kason Henry, Anthony Rose, all the commits and more, guys, as Shane Beamer continues to absolutely crush it in his first preseason in Columbia. Also, guys, we have your listener questions and a fantastic conversation, a fantastic interview as former Gamecocks baseball player and national champion Jake Williams stopped by the studio to talk Carolina baseball with me and his new film called Breaking the Curse, depicting one of the greatest eras in college baseball history, guys. A fantastic combo, a great show here on a Monday. That's all brought to you by our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. Guys, Upstate Movers Group, superior moving service. They bring care and attention other companies can't offer because they're just too busy maintaining trucks and profiting off of them instead of focusing on service. Guys, service what separates Upstate Movers Group from the competition. They're not a trucking company. They're a moving services company, and they're also employee-owned co-op. Their movers are paid twice the industry average, and everyone on the crew is invested in your success. They have dedicated professional crew members, and they also offer black glove service. They offer end-to-end packing services, custom crating and packaging for special items, and cleaning services as well. They're founded by Greenville natives and University of South Carolina alumni, guys, so a Gamecock-owned small business. They also offer 20 years of project management moving experience, and they can offer logistics and solutions that traditional moving companies simply do not have the skills for. Guys, whether in the upstate or across the state of South Carolina, if you have any moving needs in 2021, be sure to check out our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. You can find them on social media at Upstate Movers Group. Of course, if you have any other questions, go to their website, upstatemoversgroup.com. That's upstatemoversgroup.com. Be sure to check them out and tell them Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. Let's get it. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, happy Monday. Hope you're all doing well. I'm Chris Phillips, host of the Spurs Up Show. As always, appreciate you guys tuning in. And I will tell you this. I'll lead off the show this way on a Monday. For someone who just spent pretty much the entire weekend partying with Steven Garcia, I feel much better than I probably deserve. We'll put it that way. I partied with Steven Garcia and am living to tell the tale to all of you, but I won't go into much more detail than that. So we'll leave it at that. Again, guys, appreciate you all tuning in here to Monday, guys. Thank you all so much. Very excited, very fired up. Of course, I'm talking to you guys recording this here on a Sunday afternoon, and Shane Beamer just continues to crush it, continues to kill. The blood is just pulsating through my veins right now. An incredible show got lined up, guys. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate all your love and support here on this Monday, June the 28th, 2021, as we sit now just 68 days away from kickoff. I'm telling you, folks, these next 68, they're going to fly by. So, hey, whether you're at the beach, hey, maybe you're on the commute right now, you're in the office, you're on the job, but if you're on vacation, you're enjoying the water, you're enjoying a cold beverage, whatever it may be, enjoy it. Enjoy these next 68 days. Enjoy the summer because, hey, it's going to fly by. Guess what, guys? Next week is July 4th week. We're taking off. The following week, I am dropping my official game-by-game season predictions for South Carolina's 2021 football season. And from there, we're off and running. The next week's SEC Media Days. Then we'll have fall camp in a few weeks. And, guys, before you know it, September 4th and kickoff is going to be here. But, again, appreciate you all tuning in, guys. Before we get to that, hey, we're continuing along with a 2021 opponent preview series, and this is the last week we're doing the 2021 opponent preview series as we break down the Auburn Tigers. Again, guys, before we get into that, thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate the love, support, man. You guys continue to rock with everything we do. Hey, you guys continue to rock with the merch as well, man. Appreciate y'all. Hey, get your Beamer ball, get your Shane Beamer merch, get your football merch before the season gets here, man. Beamer ball is freaking taking over. For those, hey, I'm always shocked at people that do not realize we even have a store, tsus.store, tsus.store. That is the link for it. But again, guys, thank you all so much, man. We had some orders come through over the weekend. I just want to say thank you all, man. I appreciate the love and support. And again, you guys continue to rock what we do, and I truly, truly, genuinely appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and rock with it, guys. The opponent preview, the Auburn Tigers. The Tigers visit Williams-Brice Stadium Saturday, the 20th. In a rematch of last year's game. The Gamecocks, of course, getting that win 30-22 in a big-time upset. The all-time series record, Auburn leads it 10-2-1, guys. If you remember, the win last year, that was the first time South Carolina beat Auburn since 1933. So the Gamecocks had been due for a win over Auburn, and it's weird because South Carolina played Auburn literally last year at home, and now Auburn comes back to Willie B, comes back to Columbia for a rematch. And my, oh my, the amount of storylines that surround this one, and we'll get into those in just a little bit. But again, guys, like I said, last year, South Carolina won it 30-22. Auburn leads the all-time series 10-2-1. The 2020 record for the Auburn Tigers, 6-5 overall, 6-4 in the conference. We will dive into that in just a little bit. The lead storyline, though, and the lead topic, let's talk about the head coach for Auburn, Bryan Harsin. First-year head coach coming from Boise State. How will Bryan Harsin fare in his first year? What's crazy, guys, is this. This just tells you the expectations of Auburn football. Gus Malzahn got fired at Auburn. He did not have a single losing season. So, hey, Bryan Harsin, welcome. Oh, by the way, your rival is Nick Saban. So, good luck with that. But again, their first-year head coach, Bryan Harsin, they're excited for him. What can he do in year one on the Plains, guys? How did they fare a season ago? Let's talk about that really quickly, break down their 2020 season. And Auburn was a team, guys, if you remember correctly, if you remember last year, when I talked about South Carolina's schedule and I talked about the Auburn game, I said in the preseason, Auburn just wasn't a team that really scared me. And I think their on-field results sort of reflected that. Like, they were a good team. They were a quality team, not a great team by any means. They opened up their season in a big game against Kentucky, by the way, beat Kentucky 29-13. They then lost the next week to Georgia 27-6. And a lot of their problems last year were because of Bo Nix and him underachieving, if you will, compared to expectations, right? There were very high expectations from a year ago, and I think it's fair to say he did not meet those expectations. But lost to Georgia in week 2, beat Arkansas, then lost to South Carolina, of course, 30-22 in that week 4 matchup. Reeled off a 3-game winning streak, beating Ole Miss, LSU, and Tennessee. They beat the brakes off LSU, by the way, 48-11. Then lost to Alabama 42-13, lost to Texas A&M 31-20, beat Mississippi State in their season finale 24-10, and then lost in their bowl game, the Citrus Bowl, to Northwestern in really embarrassing fashion, 35-19. So a little bit of a rough year for Auburn, but, they're high. They bring back a lot, 16 total starters on this team. They bring back Bo Nix, their quarterback. They bring back Tank Bigsby, their running back, and we're going to talk about him more in just a second. Hey, let's do it right now. Why not? Best returning players on both offense and defense. Let's break those guys down, guys. And again, when you talk offense, and I know South Carolina fans get tired of hearing this name, and I think there's still some salt in Gamecock fans' wounds, if you will, because Tank Bigsby did not choose Carolina. Also because he gets all the love and praise, and Kevin Harris, we feel like it's disrespected. But to be fair, when you talk about Auburn, the best returning player on offense, no question, some people's mind, some people, not me, but some people, the best running back in the SEC, or one of them, we'll say that, one of the best running backs, running back Tank Bigsby, by far, in my opinion, the best returning player on the Tigers offense. 138 carries a year ago, 834 yards, 5 touchdowns. This is a guy, hey, there's a reason South Carolina, if you guys remember, we wanted him real bad. There's a reason everybody wanted this guy really badly. Running back Tank Bigsby is truly that dude, a game-changing type of back. Best returning player on defense. Linebacker Jacoby McClain, guys, 113 tackles a year ago, led the SEC in tackles last season in just 11 games, by the way. 5.5 tackles for loss and 3 sacks for Jacoby. Really good player in the middle for them. Kind of reminds me again of that Ernest Jones, that leader, the heart and soul of that defense, a defense that returned 7 total starters. They've got good players sprinkled all over, but Jacoby McClain is really the guy that makes this thing go. All right, let's talk overall outlook for Auburn, man. The 2021 schedule. Let's dive into that first. They open up with Akron at home, Alabama State at home. So a favorable start, but then at Penn State in the non-conference. A really tricky game, a really tough game in week 3. They then got Georgia State at home. Then they get an SEC slate. At LSU, Georgia, at Arkansas, Ole Miss, at Texas A&M, Mississippi State, at South Carolina, November the 20th, and then Alabama to close out their 2021 season. And of course, guys, the question revolves around this for Auburn. Same as South Carolina. A first-year head coach as the Brian Harsin era begins in Auburn, Alabama. And a lot of his success will come back to this question, though. Can Bo Nix take the next step? Can he be that guy? Because behind Bo Nix, I really don't know. Grant Loy, I guess they have a senior, but they don't really have anybody behind Bo Nix. They will go as far as Bo Nix takes them. And what kills me, guys, about Auburn is like they have crazy high expectations, which they should. They've won a national title before, but can you imagine? I guess we can imagine. We have this exact predicament. But your rival, your in-conference rival, being Nick Saban in Alabama and the success they're having. And you know that the success they have really drives a lot of the decisions that Auburn makes. How can it not, right? But can Bo Nix take the next step? Because you know what? They'll go as far as Bo Nix takes them. Here's a fun storyline for this game going into it, by the way. Tank Bigsby, right? Everybody loves to talk about Tank Bigsby, how good he is. Don't forget about Kevin Harris, by the way, the best running back in the SEC. The best one in the SEC, guys. We will fight you till the end on that. Seeing those two guys go against each other. Also, really interesting stuff for Auburn. Derek Mason, the old Vandy coach, is now the defensive coordinator in Auburn. How does that defense go against 16 returning starters, guys? 9 on offense, 7 on defense. And when you look at this game against the Gamecocks and South Carolina's perspective on this game, I know South Carolina fans are going to jump to, which it's kind of crazy how much we dislike Mike Bobo and how much some people, dare I say, hate Mike Bobo. Like, it really is wild. And listen, I'm not a Mike Bobo fan. I'm not a Mike Bobo supporter, empathizer, if you will, but our fans really, really hate Auburn. And they really, really want to see us beat Auburn. And I will say this, Auburn's done some things, man, with like trying to steal Welcome Home and some of the stuff they're doing. It's absolutely crazy to see it. I kind of view this game the same way I viewed last year's game against Auburn. It's a huge opportunity. Will Auburn be favored? Sure. But when you look at Auburn in year 1 of Brian Harsin and year 1 of Shane Beamer for South Carolina, I think it is a huge opportunity for a statement type of game. And, how much, all week long, of course, the storylines and the hype will be about, Mike Bobo and to hell with him and getting our revenge and this and that. But when South Carolina takes the field against Auburn, all that will go to the wayside. Hey, maybe that'll be played up during the week and that revenge factor and the players will have that emotion and all that, but that'll go to the wayside once South Carolina takes the field and has to line up against Auburn. Can the Gamecocks do what they did a season ago? Can they get after Bo Nix? Remember what I said, guys, last year? I said, hey, if you can get in Bo Nix's face, he'll give you 2 or 3. He'll make throws in a tight coverage. And guess what? He did exactly that. Of course, the J.C. Horn game a year ago and J.C. breaking out, getting a couple picks, whatever. Can you do that yet again with your defensive line? I feel good about the matchup overall. When you look at this game, and again, the storylines will be all over the place. The matchup against, 2 of the best running backs in college football going head-to-head. At this point in the season as well, just like I talked about the Mizzou game, this might be the game you need for your 6th win, because we all know what looms the next week. We all know what South Carolina has to face at home the following weekend, and I won't even mention them until Thursday's show. But we all know what's looming. You have to go into that one. If you're going to get to 6, you got to go into that one with your 6th win already notched. Is it Mizzou? Is it Auburn? What week does it come? So plenty of storylines in this one, man, as far as Mike Bobo and just it's kind of interesting, man. This is one I think Gamecock fans should really enjoy, man. And the reason I say that is because we don't get to play Auburn a lot. We don't play Auburn very, very often. So Gamecock fans, savor this one, enjoy this one. Again, I think it's a great Western opponent in a sense where, again, it's a unique matchup, but also, it's a matchup I think South Carolina can win. And in Shane Beamer's first season, you're going to be looking for that signature win, if you will, that win where you can sort of hang your hat on it. And both these coaches looking for that. Now, would it be more of a signature win for South Carolina than Auburn? Maybe so. But again, at home, what does South Carolina also, here's a big storyline for me. What do the Gamecocks look like at this time of the season? Because, hey, late in the year, are you beat up? Are you battered? Are you bruised? We know depth is an issue, but certainly emotions will be flying high. I think this one outside of Clemson is probably the game that Gamecock fans want the most. Honestly, listen, I don't have quite as much vitriol and hate and distaste for Mike Bobo. I certainly don't like him, but Gamecock fans want this one. And South Carolina's going to want this one. Say, hey, this might be the game to get you to 7 wins. Who knows? Maybe 8. God forbid. I'm talking crazy here in the preseason. But either way, a really cool cross-divisional matchup, and the Gamecocks will look to make it 2 straight wins against the Auburn Tigers. Guys, that's our breakdown of Auburn. Last 2021 opponent preview will come on Thursday as I talk that team from the upstate. So it's going to be a fun show, guys, as I break them down and break down that game, break down that matchup and everything else. But again, Gamecocks taking on the Auburn Tigers November the 20th at Williams-Brice Stadium in what should be a really, really, really interesting, fun, emotional, heated, chippy matchup. All the adjectives you can think of to describe this game, they'll probably fit it. So again, going to be a fun one as Auburn looks to begin the Brian Harsin note on a positive, and the Gamecocks look to begin the Shane Beamer note on their own positive, if you will. All right, let's get off the 2021 opponent preview series, guys, and let's talk recruiting really quickly. Really quickly, let's talk recruiting. Shane Beamer's crushing. It's literally getting hard to keep up with the welcome home tweets at this point. I think there's been 8. And the guys we know right now, defensive back Karon Prutny, the big one, the transfer All-American from Kansas, wide receiver Kyla Corton, offensive lineman Kason Henry, and defensive back Anthony Rose recommitting to South Carolina. Listen, I could go guy by guy and break these dudes down and sort of the attributes they bring. Again, Prutny's obviously the headliner. He's the big one. He's going to be a guy that plays for South Carolina immediately. I think he's an immediate starter. He's an immediate impact guy. And man, does this help out the back half of South Carolina's defense? This literally might change the defense. It's one of those type of pickups that is going to be a huge impact guy for you. Again, immediately, like I said, Kyla Corton, a 3-star wide receiver, 6'3", high projectability. They love his frame. They love his body. They love his speed. Really good player. Offensive lineman Kason Henry, another really good one. Defensive back Anthony Rose, who was committed prior and just recommitted to the new staff. You love that. 4-star defensive back, a big time prospect for South Carolina, guys. Again, I'll summarize it in this way, because I don't even know where to begin. The Beamer momentum, Beamer ball, the momentum, guys. What's going on right now? The overall feel and vibe around campus and vibe around Columbia. And this is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. This isn't the end. This is the beginning, guys. It is only going to get crazier. It's only going to get more electric. It's only going to get more fun. So, hey, if you're not aboard, get your ass on board with the Shane train, because things are rocking, things are rolling. Again, I love all the commitments, all the pickups we got, guys. And like I said, getting Prutny from Kansas, man, that's a huge one. That's a big one, man. A guy that, like I said, you're a freshman All-American at Kansas. You're a legit big-time player, man, for sure. He's going to be an immediate impact guy for you. And, I don't want people to get lost in the star rankings and stuff like that. And I'm just happy we're going to have a full, legitimate class yet again. Thank God, after last year, we're going to have a full, legit class. And, I think South Carolina is well on their way to being back to a top 25 class in recruiting. There's no question. We talked about that before. That's where South Carolina belongs. They've always been able to recruit at that clip, no matter what was going on with the program, no matter what the on-field results were. So again, you get Rose back. That's a really big one. I heard a couple of weeks ago he was going to recommit to you. That's a really, really big one. Again, Case and Henry, I love the job Greg Atkins is doing and the way the offensive line class is shaping up. Got some big ones probably coming this week and over the next couple of weeks as well. And then Kyla Court, and like I said, man, you love those big body wide receivers. And the way that we're able to develop wide receivers, the way we're able to get the most out of those guys, I feel really confident in. But again, Karon Prutny, the headliner of today's show, or at least the headliner of the recruiting talk, if you will, what Shane Beamer's doing on the recruiting trail, man, I think what you're seeing is positive energy spreads, man. It's infectious. People feel it. They vibe with it. They rock with it. And, you're seeing kids pull the trigger, man. It's a huge time of year for South Carolina, and you absolutely love to see it, man. I'm fired up for it. I'm fired up. Shane Beamer's got me literally like lost for words, man. You can't even keep – hey, that's only 4 guys. There's 4 others. We don't even know who they are right now. They're silent commitments. I mean, Shane Beamer absolutely crushing it, filling out the class. Hell, he might have the class filled out by the time the show comes out. That's how much work he's putting in. But huge. Beamer ball, man. All aboard the Shane train. If you're not aboard – again, what the hell are you doing? All right, let's dive into your listener questions. Then we have a great conversation with Jake Williams, guys. Really quickly, Brian_Martyr, best 2022 recruit, Brian says. Brian, I'll tell you this. The best 2022 recruit, commitment, they're all great. Braden Davis is obviously the headliner, man. When you have your quarterback, that's the thing. But I think the best recruit we'll get, I don't think he's committed yet, and I'll just leave it at that. Austin G_45, Auburn isn't as talented as Florida, but this feels like a statement win kind of game. I agree. Listen, man, I agree. No, it's certainly, again, you're going to be in Shane Beamer's first season looking for that game that you can really hang your hat on. You're going to be looking for that statement type of win. You're going to be looking for that game you can win and then go sell on the recruiting show. Like, hey, look at this. This shows progress. This shows how close we are. Why not us? Why not come here? Maybe Auburn can be that game. Honestly, maybe that can be the game for you. Maybe it's Florida, whatever it may be. But I certainly think Auburn presents a really, really nice opportunity for you. Again, at home, we know the emotions that'll be flying. Hey, why not? Why not the Auburn game? I think it sets up really, really well for South Carolina. Mike Edwards 07. Thoughts on Beamer's early recruiting success? Again, you love it. You love it. And I'm not surprised at all, man. Beamer was a master recruiter in Columbia. Is anybody shocked? Is anybody shocked? I think Shane Beamer's a guy, has a great attitude. He's been around the block. He knows what he's doing. And he works his tail off, and you're seeing it pay off for him really early. Mike Edwards again. What kind of impact do you think Prutny will have? I think he's a day one starter. I'd be pretty surprised if he's not, dude. Freshman All-American on a defense that needs defensive backs, that needs difference makers in the secondary. I'd be pretty damn surprised if he's not a day one starter for South Carolina. Rocco Fokker Smith. Nice handle. Who's someone you think we'll get that no one else does? I think Oscar Delp's a Gamecock. Krusty Andy, last question. No questions. Fuck Auburn. Fuck Bobo. And go Cox. Hey, are you surprised I read your question? No, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. That's going to be a hell of a game, bro. The atmosphere, the emotion. I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be absolutely electric. You know what else is electric? Our conversation today, guys. Let's get into that. Jake Williams, former South Carolina baseball player, played in 2011 College World Series national champion, and also the man behind Breaking the Curse, which is a film that'll drop soon about the Gamecocks back-to-back national titles. Guys, before we get into that, the interview is brought to you by our friends over, of course, at Manscaped. Guys, summer's here. Are you ready to unveil your beach bod? You're in luck. Our friends at Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation performance package, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right. The 4.0. Complement your summer bod with a trim from the leaders in male grooming. The sun is shining and calling your name, fellas. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for a hot guy summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. We actually got a new promo code, by the way. We got a new promo code because, hey, guess what, guys? I appreciate your love and support because Manscaped just re-upped with the Spurs Up show. But again, the promo code that we had before, TSUS, was deactivated because it actually got spread to some spam website, or hey, I think it just got used so much they got tired of it. The new promo code is TSUS20. So the same thing, but 20 at the end. TSUS20. Go to manscaped.com, 20% off free shipping, TSUS20. And again, guys, we've all been there, right? We're trimming, we're cutting, we nick ourselves, we're bleeding, it burns, it stings. It's the worst, guys. It's time to bundle up with Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. Guys, first off, the new Performance Package 4.0 includes the new Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer is insane. And dare I say, the GOAT of ball trimmers. Yeah, I said it. The GOAT. Their fourth-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. And the Lawnmower 4.0 is a 7,000 RPM motor. A new multi-function on-off switch can engage a travel lock and gives you the ability to turn the 4,000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shade. Guys, did I mention this trimmer is also waterproof in the shower in the wild, and from your chest pubes all the way down to your ball throw, the Lawnmower 4.0 is the best trimmer for you. Guys, want to take your grooming game even further to the next level? The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and ear. Guys, the Weed Whacker is also waterproof, uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. Man, that is a mouthful. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Guys, seal the deal with Manscaped's liquid formulations before heading outside. Use Crop Preserver ball deodorant to keep your game in the heat. Then after trimming the lawn and whacking the weeds in the heat, give your beach balls a boost and use Crop Preserver. Guys, Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts, their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag, which I swear by, guys. Again, bring your comfort in boxers to another level. Again, guys, get 20% off and free shipping with promo code TSUS20 at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off and free shipping with promo code TSUS20 at manscaped.com. Guys, escape the shrubs and weeds this summer and shine with Manscaped. Guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Enjoy this conversation. Enjoy this interview with former Gamecocks baseball player and national champion, Jake Williams. All right, joining us on the Spurs Up Show. Very excited. You know, it's not every day you get to sit down with a national champion. And, of course, on today, specifically, 10 years, man. It's a long time. He played outfield for the Gamecocks in 2011, hit 268, 2 homers with 38 RBIs. Again, he's a national champion. And also, director, producer, do it all, the man behind the Breaking the Curse film, which details – the greatest run probably in college baseball history. And he's Jake Williams. Jake, thank you so much for coming by the studio, my man. He's got the rings. He's got the jersey. Show the camera everything. Got the bling bling in the stew. Very excited again, man. 10 years. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, right?
It's strange, man.
Crazy, the 10-year anniversary. But again, appreciate you taking the time, Jake. Thank you for coming by the studio. I'm really excited to chat with you, not just your South Carolina career, because, again, I want to go back to the beginning, like you were mentioning off air. You played at Riverside. You're from Greer, South Carolina, played with guys like Michael Roth and some others. And I was just looking up the high school stuff. You guys went 97-18 in your 4 years, ranked like best baseball team in the country in high school and everything else. But you started your career at Wofford, 08, 09. I think you sat out the 10-year and then played 11 at Carolina. Just talk about your baseball career to that point. High school, obviously, we all know the recruiting in baseball, it just starts so early for high school kids. But what was the recruiting process like for you, again, being a South Carolina guy, and what landed you at Wofford for your first stop?
Yeah, man, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. So I grew up in the state, South Carolina, playing ball. So, and I grew up in Greenville, which was kind of dead in the middle of Clemson and Carolina. So, you know, a normal sentiment for a kid growing up is they want to play baseball, Clemson or Carolina. Mostly it's Carolina. And that was kind of a dream a lot of us had. And so, believe it or not, USC was the first school to ever recruit me at 15 years old. So at sophomore in high school, really? I got the letter, and it was, you know, how good that feels then. I unfortunately had 2 major injuries in high school, 2 hamstrings, one year, one the next. And then all the big schools were like, we'll see you later. So that was tough. I remained playing on one of them because we were on a state championship run. So I kept playing and kind of hurt it a little worse. And so I ended up at Wofford, which was actually meant to be. And by the way, at Riverside, the numbers were there, man. We ended up my freshman year at Riverside, we had 9 guys go D1 on one team. Wow. And that year we were preseason number 1 in the nation.
The hype was real.
Out of every high school, we were preseason number 1 in the nation, and ended up 4th. So I was always on like teams that knew how to play and knew how to win. So I ended up at Wofford though. And had a great experience. Was a freshman All-American. Had a really solid sophomore year as well. And for me, they didn't have what I wanted to study. It wasn't a winning program either. And I was actually fortunate enough to be able to try my hand and go and try to find another place to play, which turned out to be the right move. So I left school and nearly had a waiver to play, which was tough because, I'd have been competing for on the 2010 squad as well. So it was an amazing, bittersweet time for me to be on the team. And it's crazy because you do every single thing with the team until the season starts. Then you're like shunned from the team. And the NCAA is like, you literally can't even eat a meal with these guys anymore. And so it's like, okay. So I had to sit back and watch that all happen. And while it was amazing and great, I remember I went to summer ball when they went to Omaha and down the World Series run. So I'm like, okay, they're going to live their dream. I should be there, but I'm not, So I remember being on my summer ball squad and watching, me and my new team watching on ESPN, and they just giving me crap for like, man, like
that could be
why are you sitting here next to me? Yeah. So it was tough. It was tough to, and Logan Munson was the other one that shared that. He came from UNC. So we both were like stuck in this weird spot of like, this is great, but not really, So
I think Munson played at AC Flora, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we were, and that was our high school rival.
Okay, yeah.
Riverside.
We played. I think it was 07 or I think 08. We played in the Flora Classic. Or whatever.
Yep. Okay.
I played for North Augusta.
Okay, cool.
So,
okay, perfect.
Yeah. So we had
we were all the same
age
age range. Yeah, for sure.
A couple of run-ins, for sure.
I love that.
I'm curious to hear more again about the Wofford experience and the transferring thing because now the transfer portal is just changed. Everybody transfers. Like it just seems like they do, right? But I feel like you transferred before transferring was cool, if you will. Like
totally.
And I know you talked a little bit off air. Obviously, you went there and kind of similar. We had a similar college experience in the sense of a coaching change and just how that kind of throws everything for a loop. I mean, when did the idea, I guess, or the decision, when did you start thinking about the whole transferring thing? And how did South kind of, I guess, come back in the picture? Did you have a lot of contact and conversation with Tanner and Monty Lee, I guess, and Chad Holbrook? Like, sure. I'm just curious, like, how did that all come about where you ended up in Columbia?
Yeah. And I'm unique. And cause just as you said it was before transferring was cool. Yeah. So it was like, and I remember actually the way it worked out for me was this was when they were trying to figure out what they were going to do. So like they had changed the rules a couple times and they were trying this and that. I remember the Steph Curry's brother at Duke basketball, they had won the year before, and then they decided to change all these rules on them because they had transfers and whatever it was specifically. I don't remember, but I remember that hurt me because then they changed the rule. And so I left school and I nearly got a transfer to play for academic reasons. So I said, which was true. I left for academic reasons. Unfortunately, I did not get that waiver. So at that time, when you were D1 to D1, you had to sit. Yeah. Now, weirdly for me at Wofford, like I said, I had really good 2 years there. Right. After my freshman year, I started to feel like I didn't want to be there anymore, but I had such a good kinship with the teammates. I was close to home. I had some things positively still going. So I held out another year, thought, let's give this one more try. And then things got worse for me. I fell into a depression actually at that time too. Didn't vibe with the coach. Was still playing good ball, but I was also studying things I wasn't even wanting to study. Right. So I was like, I got to get out of here for a lot of reasons, and was actually fortunate to do so. The problem with that, though, was if I wanted to still play, I couldn't tell anybody I was going to leave. So if my coach found out I was going to leave, he was obviously not going to play me. Right. So it became this weird, like almost like living a lie type thing my sophomore season at Wofford, to where I still hit 350 and 8 bombs, but I had to, I couldn't even tell my roommate I was leaving, because in case it got out there. So it was hard. It was a hard situation. So then after the season, it was a very strange thing too, because then you only had like 2 months to try to find somewhere to play. Right. So all you have is a couple months during the summer. So then I just basically what I did was I put myself out there and just started emailing coaches all over again, me. So it was like this weird thing of like, hey, I'm trying to leave school. Do you like what I can do, or whatever? And fortunately I had a couple really good games against USC. And we whipped them actually our second year, which was funny.
I think I remember that.
Yeah,
actually.
like real bad.
Yeah.
And so I was like 3 for 4. And so I showed out again. I was freshman All-American. So I had the numbers to allow me to probably go play somewhere else. But it was a bizarre thing. So I went on and I remember I didn't even want to go to Clemson because when I hurt myself in college, every other school was at least cordial to me and said, "Hey, we hate it, man. Sorry." Clemson was most heavily recruiting me, so much so they were literally taking me to Duke basketball games and like this and that. And then when I got hurt, they just not another word from them ever again.
Old Jack Leggett.
See you later. Yeah, exactly. So I put myself out to like Florida, Coastal, a few other schools. And strangely, I remember I went on an official visit to Coastal, and the head coach didn't even come to meet me while I was there. Didn't even come say hi. Like there's a story of Witt when I interviewed him for the film, and he talks about how he went on an official visit to Clemson and Leggett didn't even know his name when he got there. And you're like, dude, you're about to sign me. You don't even know my name. Like, okay. And so anywho, I
worked out well for us.
Ditched out from Coastal. Tanner, you get here though, and everyone's story is the same. Right. Tanner, he takes you in his car, he drives you around himself, he's talking to your family. He's telling you this is that. Here's the stadium. It's this whole different scenario. So quickly, and by the way, this was the first school that I ever got recruited from. I had my good friends here, Roth, Wingo, a few others that I felt like I was meant to be here. Right. Anyways, so worked out perfect. Was able to get here, but then had to sit.
Right. So for sure, that 10 season. Yeah. You talk about Ray Tanner, obviously the legend that he is, and again, we had some convo off air, if you will. And I mean, it's very well documented at this point, man. I've had so many former Carolina baseball players, which, is a blessing to have them on the airwaves. And everybody has sort of a different experience with Tanner, like Morales. I had him on a couple of weeks ago, and he's kind of a similar story where it's like, it's just a very interesting dynamic. Like when you get on campus and he's recruiting you and everything else, but like your personal experience of the Ray Tanner, I mean, again, you can go as in depth as you like, but obviously a guy that, I think like many of the greats, man, like Garrido, Mike Martin at Florida State, the way Tanner did things and does things. And you look at Corbin and others, man, they all have kind of the way they operate. And, but he gets the most out of his players, and it obviously worked. And his track record at South Carolina, I mean, the wins and the College World Series appearances, and obviously the rings, man, it speaks for itself. But, your interactions with Ray, was he what you expected? I mean, was he different? Was he like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, that's a lovely question. So, I think Ray Tanner in the style of coach that he was is sort of like a dying breed almost. Like, they probably don't exist much anymore of that like old school hard knock, like knows the game. Just by his presence alone, he demands that respect. It's just weird. It's almost like a father figure type thing that of like, your dad never has to hit you because he already has the respect. Kind of, it's like one of those weird things. Like, it's like, he just has this presence. And before the championships, he was already one of the greats. So like, So, I had a bunch of friends that had been playing at USC before I got here. And of course I heard all the same Tanner stories. It's going to be pretty hardcore when you get here. He's an old school cat.
Tough SOB,
he's a tough dude, but he, as you said, he gets the best out of his guys. And funny enough is a bunch of my teammates would say that he knew how specifically to speak to him as opposed to him. He knew that he could take getting screamed at, while he knew maybe this dude needed a little more extra love or whatever. And so Ray Tanner now, he's actually my main partner in this film. Yeah. So we're making a documentary style 30 for 30 style film on these championship teams, and really trying to go into them. And for me, it started with, I just had all this amazing cell phone footage from these teams. Right. So bus rides, locker rooms, hotel rooms. I snuck Tanner's speech after the 11 championship on my hip. Yeah. So I have literally his whole post-game speech on camera. And so I had all this really cool stuff that I was like, man, something should be done with this. Like yourself, I was a communications major in school. So I always wanted to be into storytelling anyways. So I approached the university about 4 years ago now. And I said, hey, this is my idea. Let's do this. And basically Ray said, here's some money. I'm going to help you raise some money. Do it. And so he's been my main supporter and main partner in this.
That's awesome.
So it's been a beautiful thing. Like, he wants to get this story told and to bring this back for Carolina people to relive it. And so now Tanner, with that all being said, he and I have a very interesting relationship. As I said, I've known him since I was 15. Now I'm 31, 15 years plus. I've known this guy and been very close to him. And our relationships evolved in a very lovely and strange way over the years since, especially working together on this film. But here's what I'll say about Ray is there was an evolution to Ray that I like to say it this way. Like I said, Ray was he was going to go down as one of the greats before these championships. And in those years, he was that stickler, old school, like one and done. If you're in trouble, you're gone. I don't see this any other way, kind of thing. The years I was there and around that time, we all experienced this evolution of Ray Tanner and saw him sort of soften in some ways, but not to where he wasn't still getting the best out of his players, but he allowed them to sort of be themselves. And he allowed sort of, these two teams, 10 and 11, were just wild teams. And he allowed that. I mean, there wasn't necessarily, I don't know if he would have allowed that in older days. But, and I've talked to Steve Pierce and a few other guys from those old days, and they all got Tanner stories to where you're like, dang. But, I have a funny one where, we were doing base running drills and we're at second base and they're hitting, to the shortstop. So you have to decide if you're going to third or you're running back to second. Right. So you're the base runner. And and this was like before I was playing at all. This is like, I'm brand new on the team. This was like, I'm like one of my first practices, I think, if I even recall. And so I'm on second base and the outfielders are, we're doing these running drills and they hit a ball to to second base, to the shortstop. And I remember I went back and Ray he stops all of practice. He goes, "What, you didn't think you could have made it a third?" Something like that. And I'm like, well, I don't know, coach, maybe. And he stops me right there and he goes, "Oh, well, maybe you'll play this year. Maybe you won't play this year." And you're just like, oh, like, oh, like, you're just everybody, in front of everyone. And you're just like, kind of like, okay, but it's, then he can bring you back up in these wonderful ways. And then, so all of us have these funny stories of how he was so hard on us, but it did allow us to kind of find our strength. And so like I like to say, and I'll wrap it there, is when his evolution as a man directly follows the school's evolution in championships. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, you did play, by the way, 2011. Again, you played a lot. Before we get into the Florida series, the national title, all that, I do want to talk about, man, the rivalry, because you had my first memory of you, believe it or not, was, again, I played at Newberry, but I think we were like off that week, is when you guys played Clemson and Greenville. I remember specifically going to that game. This is when it was still playing in the midweek. It wasn't like I think the weekend series like just started, but I think this was like a Tuesday or something. Yeah. But you launched a bomb over the Green Monster in left field. Also had a couple RBI in the other win, I think. Talk about, again, I feel like that's where kind of Jake Williams was. Carolina fans truly got their first like taste of who is this guy, big number 40 launching Mamos. What was playing in that rivalry, man, the best rivalry in all college baseball. We talk about it over and over, and obviously what South Carolina had done to Clemson in 2010 in Omaha, and that was sort of the beginning of, because Gamecock fans, it's funny how like that stuff gets forgotten because you won the title. It's like people forget in 2010, like we lost the regular season series to them, and then rebounded to beat them in Omaha. From there, you guys just owned them. I think it was just like a mental midget, just taking advantage of them. But having an impact in that rivalry, playing in that rivalry, like what was that like for you? Again, the best rivalry in college baseball.
Yeah, I think probably most people would agree with that. Best college rivalry, specifically for baseball, for sure. Man, it's something else. It is. And I, again, I had friends at Clemson. So believe it or not, the guy I hit the home run off was a good friend of mine that I grew up with. But so I wasn't starting regularly at that point. And, even to that point, I think I barely even had a couple of bats. And so I did get the start at Carolina and had a good game, went like 2 for 4 with a double, few RBIs. And it was intense. I think that was the game when there was the shove, when Ross shoved the kid, and it got a little frisky, and then we get to Clemson, and then they're running their mouths about the bats and the cool bat and the warming bats and all the, and it's such bogus stuff.
Yeah. Tanner took that a little personal.
I like how he responded to that. And, we'll let you guys look that up. Yeah. But so then, and I did not play that game at Clemson. So I was sitting that game, and so now come third game in Greenville, and I was also not starting. And so Ray talks about it, and he had a knack for this kind of stuff, like the Coastal Carolina home run where he pretty much called it into play, where he told Walker, Bradley, and Morales, "Hey, Bradley, you need to walk. Morales, get on so Walker can hit the 3-run bomb." And he's done that many times where he just calls it into existence. And so he talked about, he had this feeling of like, he knew that this obviously is my hometown. I had, this could be a perfect scenario for someone to thrive, right? Like he basically said, this is an opportunity that, he could step up and really do something here. And it was kind of a funny scenario too. I'll just walk you through it real fast. It was this weird pickle between him and Leggett. And there was this weird scenario. And basically they told me, they go, "You're about to hit, get ready." And so I'm like, all right. Yeah. So I literally am like, get ready to hit. And then they're like, "Wait, never mind. They're bringing in a righty. Roth's hitting. Never mind. Sit back down." And so we're like, okay. And so they're doing this duel with each other from across the field. And like, and so then they're like, "Wait, no, the lefty's in, you're hitting." And so I had already sat back down at that point. Right. So I literally, like, you can kind of see it. I'm walking up to the plate, still putting my gloves on. I take like one little baby practice swing, and that was the only time I had. So it's just like, no mind, you're there. Like, and so, yeah, I mean, it was incredible, man. Like I, was able to hit the biggest home run of my career for sure. And it was not only that, I was in front of my family and friends and high school friends and off my old buddy. And it did, and in the biggest rivalry in baseball. So I became MVP of the series. It was a big deal. It was fantastic. And I think like you said, we whipped them in 10 in the series. So it kind of piggybacked off that and kept our momentum into the rest of the year kind of going too.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Jake, we're going to jump to the College World Series and the final specifically, because I want to give you the floor and give you the chance to defend yourself a little bit, because as we were talking off air, and of course you detail it in Breaking the Curse, again, your film. And I mean, again, man, I've talked to plenty of guys from those teams, and they all talk about your throwing arm, because obviously you had probably one of the biggest throws, I'd say, in counter baseball history. I mean, I was watching it earlier this morning, and I was just like, that's the throw. I mean, if I had to think of the throw, I can't think of another one outside of that one. But everybody talks about your throwing arm and how it was just like this miracle. I've had guys tell me, they're like, yeah, as soon as the ball was hit the left, I just put my head in my hands. I was like in the dugout, just done, game's over. And like you obviously, like I said, we were talking, you're like, I actually did have a pretty good arm, but people are, Coach Holbrook even throwing you into the bus. Like, why does everybody give you so much shit for your throwing arm? Like, what's the deal with that?
Now, I love this question. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to hear it. I'm curious.
Let's start it off. Let's not forget I was an All-American outfielder, right? Like, you don't just get that, right? Okay.
It's not just given.
Another side note, in 2011, I was the only person on the team not to make an error that year. Me, not Jackie, not blah, blah, blah.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
And that's off throwing errors from the outfield, a few other things, okay? Side note. Now, Jackie does throw 100 miles an hour from the outfield.
There's a reason he's still doing it.
He's still doing it, and he's doing it well. And Evan, he had a cannon. Some of these other guys, they could throw. Now I'll contend, I didn't have the greatest arm. I probably didn't have major league arm strength, right? But I could get the ball in. When these guys are talking about you can't make a play, you can't throw it 50 yards to save your grandmother.
Coach
pretty sure that was proved otherwise. But no, I mean, a lot of that's good fun. Like Ray talks about it, like, and sometimes he'll say like, yeah, he didn't have the greatest arm. It was incredible. Or sometimes he'll be like, yeah, he had this fantastic arm. What are you guys talking about? Like, we do this every day. Like, no big deal. And for me, like an outfielder's job is just get the ball to the cutoff and get to the next guy. If you can do that, you're good enough.
Right.
I wouldn't have been playing in the outfield in the College World Series in that moment if I couldn't throw a ball 50 yards.
Right.
So, I think it's there's maybe a little truth to it. Obviously, I didn't have the greatest arm on the team, but I do have the biggest throw in school history.
You can hang your head on that. And I'll ask you even more in detail on that, man, because, again, it doesn't matter if you have the greatest arm or the worst arm. In that moment, that ball gets hit to you. And I'm sure in your head it's like, oh, shit, here we go.
Well, here's another side note, too, is the way Florida scored their first run that game was on a fly ball to me.
Really?
And it was a pretty tight play. We almost had him. I hit the cut hard right away. Perfect throw to the cutoff, man. And he maybe didn't need to cut it. He did cut it. And he got it quick. The guy was safe by a foot, 2 feet. So again, like there was a good throw, but no. So, I mean, I talk about the throw. It's kind of an insane thing. That baseball is this, you understand, you played it. It's this strange game of life and universal stuff and weird things happen. And like
higher powers, bro, like the baseball gods are real.
The baseball gods are real, man. They are as real as can be. And, we got Matt Barnes talking about how the baseball gods got him when he pitched. He was a UConn pitcher.
Yeah.
In the super regionals in 11, he struck out the side the first inning, comes in running his mouth, yelling at our fans, knocking up against the dugout. And then we just destroy him. Right. And I interviewed him and he's on camera talking about that, which is fun. But to the throw, man, I had one of those things, one of those baseball feelings, right? Of like intuition, God, whatever. Tanner calls it heightened awareness, which I actually really like that term still. It's but really I had it to where, and this actually goes much deeper into my overall like personal story and how that follows USC stories and what was really happening and what I was really going through at that time. Save those details till a little later, but I did, man. I straight up had this feeling of like a knowing of like this ball's about to come to you.
Yeah.
And again, I look over, there's Jackie. It ain't going to him. He'll throw the guy out. Like, you got Evan, who's
he'll be expected to at least.
Literally, exactly. Yeah. And you got Evan, who ended up in the AAA outfielder stud. Great players. So I had this feeling of, again, like, oh, this is coming to you, and my roommate was pitching. Wingo had just made the plays before. I mean, a cool thing about me and Wingo is, like I said, I grew up with him. So and I've normally played center field always growing up. So and he'd always normally play shortstop. So growing up. So I literally for a decade was behind Wingo watching him make these insane plays just over and over and over again. So it was just like, I don't know. It was like, this is like your turn now is what it felt like, like everyone's done their part. Now it's your part, kind of thing.
The ball will find you.
Literally. So, and it was meant to find me. Yeah. And it did, man. So I, comes right to me. Zunio hits it, who's in the bigs now. And crushes one. And I love it. The announcers are on camera saying they're a base hit away from winning this game. Their outfielders are too deep. What do they do? Were we? I guess not. And so make the play on a rope to Barry. He makes an incredible tag up the line.
Barry had a hell of have you ever been part of a crazier baseball game?
No.
I mean, you look back at that game, like you said, you talk about heightened awareness and baseball gods and just higher powers in general. Like that was a night that
it don't get crazier, man.
I mean, I think it like the play that like epitomizes it. Obviously you're a throw, but then also the Wingo play and Barry scoops it with a catcher's mitt and you go look at the replay and it's like that close to hitting the mask. Like people forget that. Like it's just
the details, man.
It's meant to be. Sometimes it's truly just, like you said, it's just meant to be. Like it's incredible.
And the meant to be-ness culminates in so many incredible ways. So like, yes, that throw was meant to be. Yes, Wingo's. Yes. But like it all ties all the way back to like Baylor Teal, Charlie Peters, the stories that were happening, like what this was meaning, breaking the curse, all these things like to this full culmination of like meant to be story. Yeah.
And again, you're doing the film Breaking the Curse, which obviously that's kind of why we're chatting, kind of revolving around that. But I think, dude, your story, specifically you, is so cool because it just goes to show like how one decision can change your entire life. Because if you never leave Wofford and come to Carolina, I mean, it's just like, it's wild. And I'm sure you look back now and reflect, and obviously you have the film, which is a great reflection, but I mean, you probably couldn't have pictured that decision going much better than it did, right? I mean, I just,
I appreciate that perspective. No, man, that's exactly right. It was, and it kind of is like that. And which is just like another little metaphor to baseball and life, I guess. Like one simple thing can change it all,
right,
and change the whole course of everything. But that did happen for me. And so it was like, I always felt like I was meant to be there at USC with my guys that I grew up with and was able to get back there and at the perfect timing. So it was, like playing in those games, man, it truly unbelievable experiences, like I remember Andy Demetra wrote up an article on it, and they talk about it was like, I think they figured out the odds of it somehow. It was like 3.2% chance to win that game, and for for Zunino to make that error and like all these little, just none of that should have happened. And that's not even mentioning all the bases loaded jams before that and all the
I look back, I'm like, the amount of double plays we turned with like bases loaded is just nuts. Like,
it's unbelievable, man.
The amount of jams we found our ways out of, but
and they were as clean as can be up the middle. I mean, our infield is. Oh yeah. And by the way, I mean, truly, like balls didn't drop in the outfield. Yeah, they didn't. Yeah. So we made the plays when we needed to. I made the plays when I needed to, and the throw. And so, F all the haters. No. But it. I mean, it was an honor to be a part of those teams, and it was really like one of those things to where it's like an aha moment of like everything that I went through was supposed to happen to get to this very point. Yeah. Kind of thing. And
the Breaking the Curse film, again, man, like you said, you've always been someone that you're a storyteller in a bit. You're a creator, you're a creative. That's kind of how I look at you. But you obviously had a story to tell, but I'm curious, just the overall inspiration for, as we sit here literally talking on, basically we'll say 10 years to the date, you won that national championship and you got those rings and created those memories. I mean, what sparked the inspiration to really, like, a lot of people have ideas like that, but you took action and obviously have made a fantastic film, which you can give the people some insight of when that'll drop or when they can, obviously the trailer's out, breakingthecursefilm.com. So you want to go there and check that out. But were you sitting around one day like, you know what, I got a lot of valuable insight and content and everything else and perspective on this, the best time in kind of baseball history. Like, what was the overall inspiration? What made you want to do it?
So as you said, I've always been into storytelling. And that was sort of what I wanted to make career profession if I could, right? Get paid to do what you love. That's the ultimate goal. So Jackie and the boys still playing. Good for them.
Whit out here casually leading MLB in hits. No big deal.
4 years in a row, right? No whatever. And by the way, we've got all those guys. I shot Jackie on the field at Fenway Park. Whit Merrifield.
Walker? You got Walker too?
Got Walker. We got Walker in Reno when he was playing in a AAA game against Roth.
Oh, wow.
So we had all three of us together at one point talking with Reno in our back.
Love
it. It was awesome, man. And then later it was great. Evan ended up playing with Walker on that AAA team. Yeah. Okay. Which is just bizarre. I mean, they were best friends in college. And so best friends now playing together in AAA.
Wild how that happens.
It's crazy. So, and the successes those guys have had is, and that's another valuable note is that it's a complete rare thing for a team to, for a guy to make the majors from any team. Right. Rare. We've had 10 guys make the majors from 2010 to 12 teams. Yeah. And it's just like
it didn't happen by accident.
Yeah, it did not. So when there's all this talk of like, and even ourselves call this average Joes at times. Yeah. And like, probably they look at left field at me. I'm not a first rounder. So like on paper, yes, some of these guys are better, but no, they weren't, man. Yeah. And so for me, I was on these teams, lived it, walked it, breathed it. But my experience at USC ended unfavorably. Yeah. Very unfavorably, in fact. And so, which was the 2012, we almost won again, as you guys know. So it's a very strange thing there's a whole lot of details into that, but the way my experience ended at USC was very unfavorable. So I always had a sort of bad taste left in my mouth, for lack of better terms. And what happened is I left baseball pretty abruptly and then was just done with it. Right. And so about 5 years went by and I had found myself road tripping across the country, living all over. I lived in Charlotte for a period as well. And I found myself wanting to get back into baseball a little bit. Right. And I was living in Humboldt County, Cali in Northern California. Wow. And ended up coaching a high school JV baseball team. Right. and had a great time with it. And then a couple buddies of mine were still playing ball. One of them, Alex Lee, who's a still good friend of mine, was at Wofford player. He was playing ball in Australia. And I had a couple buddies still playing internationally. And I was like, I could probably maybe do something like that.
Right.
And so I put myself out into an international league and ended up finding myself not only playing, but head coaching a professional Swedish team. So they called me up 2 weeks before the season started and said, hey, our coach just bailed on us. We need a coach and a player. Can you come out? So literally, and I had sort of fibbed that I had coaching experience. I had JV high school coaching experience. So I called Ray and Billy Anderson and a few guys. I'm like, I need workouts. I have to coach a professional team now all of a sudden. And like, dude, so I went out to Sweden after having left, Carolina 5 years later and ended up playing a whole season. Had a great experience. Put myself at every position but second base and catcher.
Love that.
I literally even pitched out there. And we played against the Swedish national team and had some real cool times out there. But then I was like kind of back into baseball. And so I had been sitting on, like I mentioned earlier, all this cell phone content of just really cool perspectives of what now stands as one of the greatest teams ever. One of the greatest eras of all
college
time.
baseball history.
In college baseball history, period. Arguably so. I mean, there's a few other teams you could argue, but hard to tout that one.
Well, did something that no team will ever do again, man. Closed down Rosenblatt, opened up. I mean, nobody can ever claim that.
And some of these records may never get broken either.
No,
the postseason wins
like 22 in a row, I think.
Yep.
No chance. There's no chance.
The wins in Omaha spans 3 years, so it's some of these may never get broken again. So no one had told the story yet, right? And so I was like, maybe I should tell the story. And got home from Scandinavia, and actually while I was out there, Andy Demetra wrote up an article on me. It was kind of like he had found out I was playing out there. So they wrote this really cool article. I was like kind of back in USC grant, like land and like whatever. And so I approached Ray and called him up and said, hey, I want to do this film. I got this is my idea. I want to go get all this stuff. Let's do it. And so they loved the idea. They knew. And by the way, what I found out was there was numerous people that tried to tell the story already. There was a couple different production companies, another individual I met that they just, whether it was the means, the relationships, the money to do so, they couldn't do it. So it was always meant to be my story to tell. Now it's come a super long way in a couple years. And like I said, it's been 4 years since the very first idea went out back to Ray. And most of that time has just been spent trying to raise money to do any of it. And unfortunately, I never raised like 200 grand to just go do it all. So it'd be, here's 20K, get you a couple interviews. Then I'm like in 4 months of trying to raise more money. Then it's like, here's a little more so it's just like hard, grueling process to try to tell this beautiful story. But within that, I mean, I've learned so much, as a player on the teams, things I didn't even know, and so, we've really dove into the extent of what these championships meant, what it meant for the city, for the state, even, what it meant for Baylor Teal family, for Charlie Peters family. Have you ever heard the name Gamecock Larry?
I have heard. Yeah. It calls into 107.5 or did, I guess. He still does. Yeah.
He still does. And, he actually gave a little money to the film, and he's been a diehard Gamecock fan since the 40s. And there's so many stories of these guys and people that we've heard that just meant so much to them, right? And so I took it. So I was sort of placed this responsibility to tell the story of these teams, of what we accomplished, but also do justice to what Baylor Teal's family went through and Charlie Peters, and to accurately depict our story in a way that sort of satisfies everybody, right? To still bring in the sexy Wingo plays and the crazy baseball wins, but also like we're going to tug at your heartstrings too. So we're trying to tell the full story, and it's been quite a process. I've got some really strong leads right now. What we're doing right now though is we're trying to make the full feature film, but what the newest idea is we're trying to make a more localized series. USC is trying to get their own content channel going, basically.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think they're pretty close to doing that.
Wow.
And there's schools already that have that.
Yeah.
So like Texas A&M is making full-blown documentaries, and actually our content's done well. Like USC puts out fairly decent content, and they even won some Emmys for a Gamecock Confidential series. You might remember.
Yep.
And actually that's who I've been working with, Jonathan Hilliard, on this project a good amount. He worked on that series. Right. And so anyways, the newest idea is, outside of the documentary, we want to do like a more localized series that brings the best 20, 30, 40 minutes from our interviews, shows these guys best plays. Cause now we've done almost 30 interviews from every guy you want to see, right? Pretty much. And still plan to do a few more. But the problem is most of that won't make the feature film.
Right.
So most of that will be cut. So the idea is we want to bring, for Carolina people that actually would care to see what these full interviews are. True diehards. We're trying to bring a more localized series that'll kind of take you much deeper in and tell, even because, so the idea for me taking on this story too is we shot a lot of it like this, it's a conversation almost. And because I was able to bring stuff out of these guys that no reporter could. Right. And so, and some of it's pretty X-rated, might I say, but no, we got all the stories. And so we're trying to do that too. So I suspect hopefully sooner than later, we're going to have some real cool content for Carolina people.
That's awesome.
And they've been demanding. I mean, it's, another thing is I could have finished this time and time again, to be honest, but I kept wanting to make it as professional and to do justice to the story, and to not just make some chump little put together some crap documentary that lasts 30 minutes. And that's that. I've been really trying to do this proper, and it will be worth it in the long run, and y'all will have some content soon enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have like a target date, or I feel like it's something you've been getting after for a while. And like you said, I think it's smart, man. You only get one opportunity really to tell the story, because once it's out, it's out. But I mean, is there a timeline of when you want to get it out? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we were ideally wanting it to have it out now. For the 10-year reunion and all that. It didn't happen. So much of that is logistics and dollars and who has say-sos and whatever. So I'm just sitting on this golden pile of content, right? Just like amazing stuff. So I'd love to have like something like the series I was talking about out this summer. Yeah. Like actually out. But the problem is I'm not sure if Carolina, where that would go quite yet. Right. And the other thing is I've been in conversations with some big networks, ESPN, the producer of The Last Dance, a bunch of other networks I've been talking to that are interested in this story and want to do it. It's just, there's so many logistical nightmares you have to deal with when going through with these networks. So to like see it to screen, it has been just as difficult as actually making it, which was just, if not more difficult, as actually winning the championship. So yeah, I can't say specifically when, sooner than later. But I have the most momentum we've had yet, and something's going to hit soon.
That's awesome, man. It's just crazy to think 10 years. Like, it's just wild,
right?
It's wild to think today is that day.
Today's the day everybody remembers the throw. No one believed I could make.
That's it. Everybody knows where they were, man. And it's crazy. Like I was telling you off air, like I obviously cover Carolina baseball, and I'm at every game, and it's just, people still talk about it. They still talk about those games and those teams and those players and those personalities and Coach Tanner. And it's just, it's
and we want to bring it back to life, man. And so, Carolina's been through a hardship in a lot of ways over the last few years, and everything from our latest debacle with our president.
God.
But having to let go of the football coach, and we didn't reach even the regionals the last couple of years in baseball. Right. We did this year, but we need to be reminded again that the curse has been broken. Yeah. Like, it's gone, people. Like, we can still win. Basketball's proven it,
curse. God,
Beamer needs to bring it for us, right? Like, we can do this thing.
Bring it home, baby.
But it's true, man. Like, we were complex. I found a funny video of an actual newscast from the 90s. They had an actual witch doctor on campus to try to rid the chicken curse. Some dude throwing feathers in a fire and doing chants, and
God, I believe it, honestly.
So, I think Carolina athletics, we've still got some work to do, but let's not forget of our national presence, and we've done it. Yeah. We've been there and we've done it. I think people maybe need to ease a bit on Tanner. I don't think anyone at all what kind of plight that is
Right.
or responsibility.
Is it crazy? I've asked other guys this too. Is it crazy for you? Like, because I mean, I still say this, man, like Ray Tanner, I think needs a statue outside of Founders Park.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
because I think of like, I don't know why we love to have these like statue conversations sometimes on my show, but obviously Asia Wilson got one with basketball, which well deserved, and George Rogers has one. But I'm like, man, like when you think baseball, like who would you put out there? I'm like, you got to put Tanner, man. He built it. I mean, he literally built it.
Literally.
Like,
I bet there'll be one once he leaves.
Yeah, I think
he's
so
like
too.
still kind of in charge.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
And he's so humble
so
that
too.
he's probably like, I can't put a statue
But I
of myself.
was gonna say, like, is it crazy for you though, like seeing, I guess the way I don't know how to even phrase it, man, because like I look at Tanner like always a legend, but things have kind of changed a little bit with him as AD and like the way people talk about it's just weird. It's like it's weird. I'm sure as like player, like what is what are you talking about? Like,
it is, yeah. A lot of that is true. Yeah. There's some instances like let the fans go nuts. Like I'm with you on that. I mean, like, come on,
everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm just saying it's like weird.
But there are surely, you see it on message boards, and you see it wherever pop up, and you're like, have y'all forgotten like what this man has done? Like, have y'all like, and again, like that job as AD. I mean, he talks again. I've interviewed him twice for the film, and we have a close relationship now. But I mean, he talks about, I mean, so much of that, and like, how different it is to be AD as opposed to coach, and how hard it is to sit there and watch now, and he has no say so, and he has to put the power into these coaches' hands, and like, it's a very difficult job. So, anytime something goes wrong, for people to just call for his head is just like, people, come on, like this dude is a legend, was a legend before the championships, and brought us our, arguably our school's greatest championships. And so, I mean, that's why I said that, because I think it's not appreciated enough what this man does and how much he cares for this university and the students and the athletes, man. And so he had to adapt a little bit too, because as we said, he was such an old school hard knock guy. So he did bring a lot of that to AD, but he had to change. I mean, look at our football team. I mean, they used to have the 3-strike policy. I mean,
good point.
You could do what you wanted. And so, I don't know what the right answer is, but I do know the scope of college athletics in whole is shifting and has been the last couple of years. And so I mean, he's talked about it too. It's going to be a whole different ball game, literally, when players are starting to get paid.
Oh yeah.
When you got a 2.0 making more money than their coach, how's that going to go?
Yeah.
So like I said earlier, I think he's just an old school breed. Like they don't make him like him anymore. They really don't. Like, it's hard to come across that kind of guy that like can walk in any room. There's just that respect demanded of him. You know who he is. There's a presence. So that's kind of my opinion on Tanner. He bleeds for this university. And I think not enough people understand like what a task, a challenge that is. So it's difficult
for sure. Well, Jake, I'm gonna get you out of here. I want to save some for the imagination, because I'd love to get you back on.
We're gonna be back, baby.
Once the series gets a little closer, everything gets released, everything again. breakingthecursefilm.com is where you can check out some of the early works, the trailer, everything else. I know we're all highly anticipating it because of, just again, reliving those memories. Again, we're talking 10 years, the date. Like I said, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years. Time flies by, I guess, when you're having fun. But I'll ask you before I get you out of here. Again, I feel like asking, to pick one favorite memory from then is like almost unfair. But when you look back, maybe like an off the wall story or just kind of a fun, did you know type of fact from that 2011 season, that 2011 team, maybe even there's that series against Florida. I mean, or something that sticks out to you from that time, from winning that title, whether on field or off field at Carolina.
Yeah.
That you can tell on there.
Yeah. A number of stories.
I know with that group, there's plenty of stories that are better saved for the house.
Yeah. I've talked about making a whole like X-rated DVD side note to like send to the teammates, because there's some funny stories.
Probably the best teams in school history on the field and the hardest partiers off of it. Some of them at least.
100%, man. Yeah. And so, with that in mind, we lived in the retreat.
Oh, and,
you can probably find the story about me in the retreat, but there was one point, I remember there was this, this is true. This is funny. So this doesn't really have anything to do with baseball, but it's a funny story. So, I lived with 3 guys, 3 baseball players. Next door to us was 4. And then across the street was 3 others. So it was like a family dynamic. We had all these family dinners together. We're always together in the retreat. So, which is a college neighborhood.
Right.
And we had heard wind that there was going to be this big sorority party. And so we were like, okay, whatever. And so, but literally we lived where we lived in our backyard was the huge courthouse. So you literally step out and it's this huge courthouse, like wide open area. Right. And so I remember all we had to do was just step out and there's 400 kids in the backyard now, right? One night. And so we walk out and we knew the cops were coming. It was only a matter of time, right? It was just a massive gathering, hundreds of kids. And so we all had kind of like our plan of like when that happened, like what we were going to do, how, we just had to walk back to our house. So it was fine. But I remember what happened was all of a sudden, like you can hear the cops are coming, and it was a line of like 12 cop cars come in, and everyone, and I swear this is what I remember hearing is, and so everyone's starting to scatter, and I remember it was me and Walker. We stuck together, so we were like, all right, dude, we got to get back to the house somehow. And so we're like ducking around trees and corners, but before we really took off, I hear a cop on his loudspeaker saying, "If you run, we will tase you." And so, dude, literally, there's hundreds of kids going in every direction. I'm looking back. I see a 5'2" girl get tackled into the trees. I do see a guy get tased. People are dropping down, and we're just like running around like, we snuck back to our house and we're fine, of course. But like, dude, it was just this completely wild, like
just a hilarious Columbia.
Yeah.
No big deal.
We will tase you, and they did.
Just another night at the retreat. You gotta love that. We're literally
another Walker, man. Like I remember one weekend he went like 13 for 14. It's just like typical. 3 home run. Yeah. You're like, this is the best hitter any of us had ever seen. Right. Just like, there's so many stories like that. Like I said, for me, we had this tightness. Like we had this real tightness that. I came from a group at Riverside High where we had that similar tightness. But I had never been on a team that there was such a brotherhood and such a chemistry and I was a complete black sheep on that team, like very much doing my own thing. I was the only male athlete in the entire journalism school.
Really? Wow.
When I was there, so I was always kind of like doing my own thing and this and that, but still was a leader on that team. And it was like, we all had our play and our part and like knew how we could lean and rely on each other. I think that was maybe one thing that just sticks to mind is like the chemistry of those groups, man. It's just like something that you never would find again. And each of them says the same and how it was just this seriously incredible group. And again, Tanner allowed that to happen. These coaches allowed that to happen. You got to wait till you see some of these bus ride videos I have.
That's the best memories,
madness.
Man. That's the best memories, the bus rides. Honestly,
man, 100%.
That's where like the real memories are made.
And so, that was it, man. These teams are special, as we said, could be arguably the greatest of all time. Yeah. And so it's an honor, one, to have been on those teams, but now to retell the stories and to come, be with you on this podcast. And it's awesome what you're doing, man. And like how you're keeping the name for USC up, and desperately we need that. So it's cool. The following you built up and I
appreciate it. Yeah. I love Carolina baseball, man. And I was, pursuing my own baseball journey at that point, but watching from afar and watching you guys. And again, we'll put a pin in it with that, man, as I know I can speak for all the Gamecock Nation when I say, obviously watching you and your teammates and obviously your throw. And I mean, it's wild how your impact, making a decision, and like your impact is still felt, you know what I mean? Like just because of just playing the game you love to play, man. So I appreciate you taking the time. And obviously we're looking forward to the Breaking the Curse film, again, breakingthecurse.com. Check it out on the website. We're all anxiously anticipating. Again, like I said, man, 10 years of the date. It's crazy how time flies. But
thanks for having me, man. Thank you, Gamecock people. Yeah, it's gonna
Gamecock
be a special
Nation.
film, and it's an honor to be here, man.
Absolutely. Jake, appreciate it again. He's Jake Williams. I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you next time on the episode of the Spurs Up Show.